Zodiac, new to Netflix. I'm a big fan of crime films. I don't know how I haven't seen this one, to be honest. I'm into all the detective movies, serial killer movies, all that shit. Love it. One of my favourite genres. And yeah, they added Zodiac to Netflix. I was like, oh, what's this? And then I saw the cast. It was like Jake Gyllenhaal, who's fucking the best actor in the world. He's my absolute favourite. Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man himself, before he did Iron Man. And then Mark Ruffalo, who's Hulk. I mean, just heck yeah. This just looked like a fucking definite must-watch. And it is. It's a really good, really different, actually, detective movie, to be honest. Crime movie. It's something that's not quite what I was expecting. You know, it has a unique style to it. I'm checking who made the movie, because I can't remember. Oh, fuck. It's by David Fincher. He's a fucking... I remembered the name, but I was actually trying to figure out what else he directed. And he did Seven, which is the other... like crime, you know, serial killer movie with Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. He did The Social Network, one of my favourite movies. And he did Gone Girl, one of my favourite movies, which I reviewed not too long ago. And once again, another cracking movie from him. Very, very good. So yes, anyway, plot. Zodiac follows a serial killer who, and this is all a true story, a serial killer who, you know, did some murders in like California during like the 60s. And his murders were quite random. In a sense, they were different methods. He was a serial killer who didn't necessarily keep a pattern. He wasn't targeting specific people. He just sort of did his thing, but he would write to the news outlets, you know, like a few newspapers, and let them know what he's doing and make threats about what he was going to do next and, you know, try and make them solve his puzzles. Like he'd send in like these coded messages and say, oh yeah, put it in the newspaper, see if people can figure it out, and people would decode it and it'd be some fucked up shit like, oh, I'm gonna kill like a bus full of children. It's fucking weird, man. And I didn't actually realise this was a true story until like, I think the end, or like halfway through when I just sort of looked into it a bit because I was a bit curious. Like, is this true? This is like kind of far-fetched, kind of crazy. Like, who would have thought of this? Yeah, it's true. It's fucked up, man. And you kind of got three different people, like, sort of working the case. You've got Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who is just like a writer for this newspaper. And he's like, you know, sort of the main guy writing the articles about it. You got police detective, played by Mark Ruffalo, who's sort of, you know, assigned the case, trying to find out what the fuck's going on, who this guy could be. And then you got Jake Gyllenhaal, who also works in the same newspaper building as, God, I'm speaking too fast and my mind's going blank. Robert Downey Jr. He works in the same building as him, but he's like a cartoonist for the paper, but he gets like quite intrigued by the killer. He gets intrigued by his puzzles as well, because he's quite into, you know, doing his crosswords and, well, not crosswords, Sudokus, all that shit, you know what I mean? He's into puzzles, man. So he, like, figures out some of the codes himself. He's a smart guy. Nerdy, but, you know, smart. And you kind of got these three people working the case, and it sort of drives them all a little bit mad, in a sense, because they're so obsessed with trying to find out who this killer be, and whenever they think they're getting an answer, there's more to it. It's not necessarily because the killer's one step ahead, but it's because he's just so cryptic and so good at covering his tracks. I won't talk too much about plot in this part of the review. Might have a little spoiler section at the end because, you know, I don't want to ruin anything. But what I will say is this is a film that's actually going to require a lot of your attention, in a sense. It's not necessarily overly complex, but it's a long movie. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and there's a lot of information to take in. And I found myself, say if I lost track or just, I don't know, went to get a drink for a minute or something, I didn't pause it, I'd come back and you sort of miss an important scene, because every scene is actually very important. There's not really any filler, any bullshit, any wasting of time. You know, to have like 2 hours 40 minutes of that just is quite impressive, to be honest, because, you know, they obviously had a lot of material to work with. I mean, the film spans over like, I think it's 12 years, something like that. It might actually go further than that, I don't know. Right at the end, they jump forward quite a bit. But yeah, I'd say if you're watching this, just try and stay invested. Obviously, it's a long watch, but it doesn't really lose your interest. It's maybe not the most thrilling 2 hours and 40 minutes that you're going to have of your life. You know, you might find yourself a little bit, sometimes drifting a little bit. Not because it's bad, you know, definitely not because it's a bad movie or bad writing or anything like that, but I don't know, it's just, it's a long process, in a sense, of them solving this crime. So I guess that kind of gives you the feeling yourself of like, oh, they're not really making any progress right now. Maybe I can sort of drift off for a little bit and then come back to it. But, you know, I would definitely like to rewatch it and properly focus, understand it, you know, take all the information in and get like a better understanding of it all. But saying that, it's not confusing. I understood perfectly well what happened. So yeah, spoilers, you kind of find out who the Zodiac is. It's quite interesting, actually. This is like the first detective crime thriller movie sort of thing where you never get like a confession from the murderer, or you never really get a confirmation of who it is, but you know who it is. So basically what happens is, as the movie develops, you know, Robert Downey Jr.'s character sort of goes a bit... So he basically gives up. He's sort of out of it. Mark Ruffalo's character, the detective, he deals with the case, but then Zodiac sort of goes AFK. You know, he stops killing people for a while. Well, for a good while. He actually just stops. I think there's like a 4-year gap and nothing's really happened. And during that 4 years, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, who's the cartoonist at the paper, he's still working there, but he's interested by Zodiac. He thinks that he can solve this shit. He thinks he can do it. He sort of brings it back and he gets in contact with Mark Ruffalo's character, sort of like, come on man, just give me some pointers. Who shall I talk to? Where shall I look? Where can I get some information and try and work this out? And he does work it out. And what he does, rather than actually... Because there's nothing incriminating enough to pin the guy that's done it. So he writes a book. Just called Zodiac. And it's sort of... I mean, I haven't read the book. I'm guessing it's based on that fucking book or whatever. But I guess it sort of gives all the information, all the details. He did it more so that he could put all the information into one thing. Rather than try and go to the police and be like, come on, I've got these facts. Like, can't you, you know, fucking convict this guy? And they'd be like, you know, they can't. It's just not enough. But, you know, it's a true story, and you find out that, you know, they were going to convict the guy, ask him some questions and stuff, and he had a heart attack just before they could fucking question him and shit. So, that fucked it up. Heart attack. Somewhat suspect when he's just about to be convicted, you know? And that's it. There you have it. And you're sort of left with an unsolved mystery. It is solved, but no punishment was done, and they could never really convict the guy, never really say, this is the Zodiac killer. And that was a pleasant twist, in a sense. I mean, I know it's a true story, but it's a pleasant twist. It's nice to have that in a movie where it ain't solved. You know, it's sort of a thing that's just always going to be there. Who really was it? You know, was it really the guy they say it was? I mean, I'm pretty sure it was. Everything was pointing to him, but you never know. Zodiac's a really good film. It's kind of hard for me to judge it right now in terms of score, because I feel like if I watched it again and really took more in, I think I would probably give it a higher score, because there's a lot to watch here. I think if I was in a cinema or something, I mean, you know, as you're at home, there are distractions, man. You're like eating dinner or something whilst you're doing it. You're fucking going to get a drink. You need the toilet. You know, you pause it from time to time, but you know, some movie reviewer I am, right? Jesus. Zodiac, I'm going to give this 8.5? 8.5? 8.5. I think 8.5 is fair. I would definitely rewatch this. I certainly intend to rewatch it at some point. But by that time, Netflix probably would have taken it off, because that's what they do. They fucking just take movies off. I'm not crying, my eyes are itching. But yeah, Zodiac, watch it. If you watch it, let me know what you think in the comments, because, I don't know, that'd be nice. I'd like to know. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in whatever's next. Yeah, I just made gum fingers, and what?